Hi, this is Dan Wolfson with Pragmatic Data Research. I'm also a maintainer on the Egeria project. Egeria is an open source project within the AI and Data Foundation of the Linux Foundation. Egeria focuses on open metadata and governance, automatically capturing, managing, and exchanging metadata between tools and platforms. Egeria can add value to your existing tools and catalogs through exchanging and augmenting the information that each contains. For more information on Egeria in general, please visit our website at https://egeriaproject.org. This video describes a new user interface for Egeria called Hey Egeria. Hey Egeria is a terminal-based interface that allows you to interact with Egeria and give it commands without programming. Currently, there are about 70 commands, and the list keeps growing based on the priorities of the community. In this video, we'll show some examples of Hey Egeria, walk through how to install it, show how to use the textual user interface, show how to use Hey Egeria from the command line, and review how to find the documentation and get started. Okay, let's get going. Let's start by doing some Hey Egeria examples. So what I'm going to do is pull up a terminal window. In this case, I happen to be running in a Jupyter Notebook environment, really using the Egeria Workspaces environment, which pre-installs what we need for this, but I'll show you how to install it yourself in a minute anyway. If we just type Hey Egeria, you can see that it's an operating system level command, and it provides us with a number of commands: cat, my, ops, tech, and tui. What we want to do for right now is let's explore with the tui. So we say Hey Egeria, tui. TUI stands for Textual User Interface. And it gives us a nice little interface that breaks down into categories all the different commands that we have. You can see that the commands are organized into different groups like cat and my, ops, and tech. And then within each group, there are show commands that display information and tell commands that we use to ask Egeria to take some action for us. And then we sometimes subdivide it even further. So let's give it a try. Let's start by taking a look at glossaries. Egeria allows us to create and manage glossaries of business terms. And we can have multiple glossaries, and they can be fairly sophisticated, but we're just going to do something fairly simple today. So we click on glossaries, and it brings up a little form. And in that form, it shows us what options we might want to fill out. In this particular case, there's a valid option here, asterisk, which indicates all, and we can just say close and run this, and it will come back and it creates us a table of all the glossaries that are in our metadata repository. Pretty simple. Okay, so if we do Hey Egeria again, we can try something else. We can say, why don't you, let's say, show me all the projects that we have. Again, I can take the sensible default, which is asterisk, meaning all. This time I'll type Control R instead of pressing that button, and it comes back immediately and gives us a list of all the projects that Egeria knows about. Pretty simple. What you can also see is that that little form is actually building up this as a command. And so it's Hey Egeria, cat for catalog, show for show me, projects, and then the projects command. So project is a subheading here. So if we take a look at this again, we say Hey Egeria TUI, then what we can see here is that we are in the cat group for catalog users. Pretty much everybody's a catalog user. We're going to ask Egeria to show us something. We're looking at projects, and we've selected the projects here. It's that simple. And you can see down here that it's actually building up the command for us as we fill in the different spaces and options in the form. We can take a look, instead of the glossaries or projects, we can look at glossary terms, and it operates the same way. We can just do Control R, and it'll come back and list all the glossary terms. As you can see, we have a little colon down here, and that means that this is a paging style of interface. And if we hit the space bar, just like you would in the more command or the less command, then it's going to give us the next page of values. And in fact, we can also go back. And so We can go back and forward throughout here. We can search in here. It follows all the same standard syntax that you have in other paging commands on a Unix system. So let's type Q, and that gets out of here. We can also ask Egeria to do things for us. And so if we go back and we say, hey, Egeria TUI, once more, and we can say this time, we don't want to do a show. We want to actually ask Egeria to create a new glossary for us. Now, there's a blank space where we need to put in the name. So let's put in a demo glossary for the video. And it wants to know the language. English is fine. A description. We'll type something in here. And we can tell how we're going to use this. We'll say for demo purposes. And that's all we need to fill out. And you can see here, down here is the command that it's actually building for us. And we can just type Control-R. It's going to execute this, and it did it. And so now, if we go back to Hey Egeria, go to the TUI, and we ask it to show us the glossaries. Once again, this time, we now see our new one that we just created, Demo Glossary for the video. And we can delete glossaries, we can update glossaries, we can do that with terms. And so this allows you to manage the lifecycle of a glossary just from the command line. Pretty simple. Okay. Now if we look at the TUI, we see that there's a lot of different commands. Some of them are a little bit more sophisticated than others, which is fine. Those tend to be in the tech category, which are for more technical users. The ops category is for operations and operational users. And so we can do things here. For example, we can say, show me the status of all my Egeria servers. And so it'll come back and give us a nice little widget that shows us the status. And so it shows that each is active. This is a live monitor style widget, which means that it'll be continuously updated as the world changes. To exit out of this, we have to type Control-C. And so now if we go back and we do Hey Egeria TUI again, and we go and we find our status command once again for the server status, what you'll see is that there is this other optional checkbox. And if we select it, then it's going to give us more information. If set, full server descriptions will be shown. So we'll check that and see what it does. And you can see that now, instead of just showing us the first two columns, which is what it was doing before, it gives us the unique identifier, the qualified name, a description, server type, the last time it was started. Pretty simple. So we can, of course, just execute these directly from the command line. So if I just copy and paste that command here, select it, copy it, paste it, and I can just type that in, and there we go. Just like if we were doing it before from the TUI, we can just do it directly from the command line. Okay, so how do we get started? How do we install Hey Egeria? Well, Hey Egeria is written in Python, and it uses pipx as a way to install it into a sandboxed environment. And so what I'll do, because it's already installed, is we'll uninstall it. And what we're uninstalling is PyEgeria, which is the Python interface to Egeria, and that's where these commands live. Okay, so it's uninstalled. Now, pipx itself is a command that you may already be familiar with. It's a very useful command. It allows us to run any Python program as a command at the operating system level. And here's where you can find more information about pipx and how to install it into the different environment that you have. In my environment, I've already installed it, so I'm not going to do that again, but I will install PyEgeria. And we just say pipx install PyEgeria, and it goes off to PyPy, pulls down PyEgeria, and installs it in a sandboxed way. When it's done downloading, it will give us a list of all the commands, here they come, that it just installed. Now, one other thing to note is that all of these are another way to execute the same functions that we have in Hey Egeria. So for example, I have a command here called monitor server status, which is a shortcut way of doing that same Hey Egeria command that shows us the server status. Same exact thing. Okay, so that's how we install PyEgeria, and to update PyEgeria when there's a new version, we simply say pipx upgrade PyEgeria, and that's it. Okay, now there's one other useful piece of information to understand about, which is that PyEgeria and Hey Egeria try to provide useful defaults for the different environment variables that we have. And so if we go back and we look at Hey Egeria, we look at the TUI, you see that we have a number of defaults here that include the server, which is the Egeria metadata store that we have, the URL for where that lives, the name of the integration daemon URL, the view server, and so forth. All these are key environment parameters that we need to use. And under the covers, all of them are set by default through a set of environment variables. And so if we look for the environment variables using the env command, and we'll just say grep Egeria, you can see here's the list of Egeria environment variables, and you can change what these defaults are to suit your environment. So clearly here we have a demo user or an overview as the Egeria user, and a obviously demo password here of secret. You could put in your own here, or there are some other ways that we can add more secret information as well. Another important variable here is the width. Many of the commands work better when there's a wide screen, so that's just something to keep in mind. The default is 200 characters wide, and we can make that bigger or we can make it smaller. And so we just use the regular Linux commands, or works on a Mac or on a PC as well. We can just say export Egeria width equals, let's say, 250. And now when it goes to display a table, it'll take full advantage of the 250 characters. So that's how we set sensible defaults and how you can manipulate some of those defaults. Okay, now the final thing I wanted to go over was how to get more information. PyEgeria and Hey Egeria are part of the Egeria Python project that's part of the broader Egeria project. And you can find us on GitHub at github.com/odpi/egeria-python. Once you type that in, then you'll get to a source tree like this. And if we navigate through PyEgeria commands to documentation, then what you'll see is this nice little README with an overview of PyEgeria, talks about the options and the parameters, gives you a little bit of a command reference and where they can be found. And then it also points us to the visual command reference, which we can click on here. And that shows each of the show commands, what the screenshot is of what they do. So here's the top level Hey Egeria menu, the full menu. And now here's each of the screenshots, and it's organized in the same way that the TUI is organized. So the cat commands come first and so forth. And what we can see is here it says in purple, Hey Egeria cat show assets element of tech type unity catalog. And that's the command that we used to produce this output. We go down a little more, we can see here's one that's generating one for deployed catalogs, or deployed data schemas, and so forth. You can also see that for each one, it specifies what the input is, and that is for any of the specific or command-specific parameters that we need to put in. And so here we can put in an optional filter string to filter the results of the catalog search. And so it's a pretty exhaustive list, and we can navigate to that from this table of contents up here. Okay, hope it's useful. So that's what I wanted to cover today. To wrap up, we covered what Hey Egeria is, how we can use Hey Egeria to very easily issue commands to Egeria, both asking it for information as well as telling it to do things for us. We can use the textual user interface, which is a much more visual style interface, but still using terminal commands. That textual interface will build command strings, and we can just type those command strings in directly, or we can build them with the TUI, as we showed in the video. There are also standalone commands for each one of these that we can execute, which are kind of like shortcuts once you're familiar with what the structure is and what's available. So they can be more useful in scripts. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to your feedback, and happy cataloging. Bye now.